Hey everybody, welcome back. So we're doing our mini recap show as we're going to be doing all 17 weeks of the fantasy football season. And we got some news to talk about. Now, I don't want to give too much away during this show because we do have our four-eyed recap article coming out tomorrow morning, so be on the lookout for that. But we wanted to go over some of the main points and storylines to take away from week one of the fantasy football season. And you know what? There's so many to pick from. Let's start with running backs, Ken. Let me go over the top five. We have Josh Jacobs, which we'll get to him in a little bit. Christian McCaffrey, we expected. The one that really jumps out to me is Nyheim Hines with 23.3 fantasy points and half PPR scoring. Everyone thought it was going to be the Marlon Mack show. Unfortunately, he tore his Achilles tendon.
The Marlon Mack show is over for the season, it looks like.
Apparently, and we wish him a speedy recovery.
Yeah.
The Jonathan Taylor show didn't really come to fruition.
Nope.
But tell me if you heard this before. Phillip Rivers likes throwing to mobile running backs and tight ends.
Yeah, well,
you
know, he has one guy in the Hall of Fame and another guy going to the Hall of Fame. So,
well, and you look
pretty good at that.
Right. So you look what he did in Los Angeles,
it was San Diego at the time,
Sure. Okay. That's a good point. But with Austin Eckler and with Hunter Henry, it seems like that's transitioning over to Indianapolis. Now, Jack Doyle, he got you 6.4 fantasy points and half PPR scoring. He was looking his way. It's just, I think the Jaguars were prepared for that. But Nyheim Hines, 23.3 fantasy points. Is that an outlier? I think it is.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm pretty sure it is. So don't put too much stock into that. Don't waste too much fab if you do not have him on your rosters. But that is a heck of a performance. Raheem Mostert with 23.1 fantasy points just finished up in the game against the Cardinals. Tevin Coleman, we were worried about him missing this game due to pre-existing health conditions. We talked about that during our pregame show, which, of course, you can check out every Sunday from noon to 1 p.m. 23.1 fantasy points, that's pretty darn good. And even with Tevin Coleman being there, he still was able to produce. Do you think with this performance, Ken, that we can kind of write off the narrative that we should be concerned about Raheem Mostert's usage going forward?
Well, it looks like a Kyle Shanahan offense. It's going to be a lot of use of a lot of running backs. He had it last year with Mostert and Breida. He didn't have Tevin Coleman, who was injured, but he used every week. There seemed to be another running back that would get 100 yards or 3 touchdowns or something like that. So
right.
I that's why running backs in the Kyle Shanahan system tread lightly when you're thinking about starting them.
Yeah, no, it was really good to see Jerick McKinnon get back on the field. I think he had 11 fantasy points. Good to see him after those few years of injuries piling up that he was able to get back on the field and do some stuff. And, of course, finishing up the top five, we have Chris Carson with 21.6 fantasy points. Everyone hates on Chris Carson. Everyone thinks Chris Carson is, the bastard stepchild. But the guy just produces when he's on the field on a running offense.
Yep.
He just looked dominant in this game for the Seattle Seahawks versus the Atlanta Falcons. Ken, tell us a little bit about the running backs 6 through 10.
Okay, so the running backs 6 through 10, it looks like it's a group that should be in some of the 1 through 5. So you have Dalvin Cook, 21.3, Alvin Kamara, 17.
Yeah, he seemed to dominate the end. He basically was the offense for the Saints during the Saints and Bucks game.
Yeah, they're going to get every dollar's worth out of him, aren't they?
Yeah, well, they did.
Every new dollar's worth that they just
they certainly did in week one, yes.
Yep. Aaron Jones, same thing. Just lit it up there.
So I don't know if you caught the Packers and Vikings game, but they really did not feature Aaron Jones a lot, per se. Throughout the game, they actually kept the game script pretty pass heavy, which is kind of the opposite of what they used to do last year. Meaning LaFleur and his scheme, his offensive scheme. I don't know what to make of this. Maybe this was Aaron Rodgers saying, "You know what? You all drafted Jordan Love. This is my revenge tour that I'm going on this year, and I'm just going to audition for teams going forward that I still got it. Maybe, that's an exaggeration, of course. But it was a heck of a performance from Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And Devonta Adams, obviously, we'll get to those two in a little bit. But, going back to Aaron Jones, little concern there. Not so sure what this means going forward for his value. Obviously, you're starting him, and we're talking about, of course, expectations of what you can get out of him. But the 15 points right there and a touchdown, I mean, that is good. He was the leader. He was the tied leader for rushing touchdowns last year. So he's obviously going to continue that trend, we hope. Who else, Ken?
Next, you have Peyton Barber with 14.9. I don't know if that's a surprise or not a surprise about that he got it, because you didn't see much in the way of Leonard Fournette.
So Peyton Barber is on the Washington Redskins, Mr. I'm with the Times.
Oh, Peyton Barber. Shoot. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's fine. So Peyton Barber got the carries the goal line.
Sorry, yeah.
Let me take care of this list. You just read the names and numbers. I'll give you the name.
It's been a long day. It's been a long day for me. I got punched in the head today. If you could see my
maybe you should get punched in the head more often.
I don't know. This camera is weird. Yeah, I don't know, but I kind of got a fat lip right now.
Well, we're sorry to hear that.
Yeah, you know what happens.
So no, it doesn't happen. Why did you get a fat lip, Ken?
When you're playing hockey and you go across the middle, things happen when you're not looking.
There we go. So anyhow, carrying on with Peyton Barber, he got a lot of the goal line touches. We thought Antonio Gibson would get a lot of work since they announced that Bryce Love was going to be inactive for this game, aka a healthy scratch. But it was Peyton Barber who they leaned on, meaning the Washington football team. And being a Washington fan, I am very ecstatic that they got their first win of the season against division rivals Philadelphia, and did so by crushing Carson Wentz, by sacking him, I believe, 8 times. It was beautiful to see this defensive line finally come together and look dominant in this division. Who else we got, Ken?
Well, we did talk about that this morning, that Carson Wentz was going to be under siege the whole game. So
true. So who else you got there?
And finally, J.K. Dobbins with Baltimore, rookie out of Ohio State in his first NFL game, gets you 14.2 points today.
As a Mark Ingram manager, I'm not happy.
Yeah, there are some storm clouds are brewing on that one.
Yeah, I'm not happy. I am happy I have J.K. Dobbins. I believe in the league that you and your brother run, so I'm very happy that I have him going forward. What does this mean for Mark Ingram? It doesn't look good. J.K. Dobbins came out in the second half and was the lead back. They announced he was the lead back going forward. Ingram barely saw the field when he did. He was only getting a couple 2-yard runs here and there. Dobbins looked like the more explosive back. Go figure, younger. Being a rookie out of Ohio State. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do going forward. They did say, meaning John Harbaugh said that they were going to ride the hot hand approach at running back, but just, looking at how good Dobbins played and how poorly Ingram played in a game where it was pretty much a blowout against Cleveland. If you have J.K. Dobbins on your waiver wire, I would suggest you invest a good chunk of your fab, if not, 40% of it to 50% of it, getting him going forward this season. Okay, let's get to what.
I will say now, the one thing with that game is there wasn't from the Baltimore end, there really wasn't much rushing going on anyway. So, I don't know if I would take this as too much of a harbinger of things to come, but it's still, they only had a total of 30 rushing attempts. Lamar Jackson, no shock, led the team in rushing with 45 yards. So the rushing attack wasn't on display today.
This is a very good point. This is a very good point going forward. Let's go to wide receivers. Let's go to the top 5. Devonta Adams, Calvin Ridley, Adam Thielen, which I was boasting in the pregame show. DeAndre Hopkins, who I left out of my top 10 and who, based on fantasy Twitter, a lot of you left out of your top 10. We are all guilty. So own up to it. Move on. The wide receiver that I did not expect to crack the top 5 today was Robbie Anderson. Who knew? Who knew that was going to happen in this game? You would have thought DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel would have been emphasized more in that passing game in Carolina. Who we got 6 through 10, Ken?
I got Jamison Crowder giving you 22.5 points, mostly on the strength of his 69-yard touchdown catch.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Whatever it takes to get you home.
That's right. Who else is on the list?
You got Julio Jones at 20.2.
That's expected. Okay.
Yeah, it's Julio. He was next to Calvin Ridley, who had a great game too.
Well, it's interesting. Both Julio, Calvin Ridley, and slot wide receiver Russell Gage for the Falcons all had over 100 yards receiving in this game.
Unbelievable.
I mean, they do have this receiving talent. There is a member of the Falcons offense who I am a little bit concerned about, and that was Todd Gurley. Only got you 12.7, I believe, fantasy points in half PPR scoring. Look, what we saw last year with Todd Gurley, he wasn't that explosive back, between the 20s. He was that red zone goal line back who was just touchdown dependent. And it kind of looked like the same Todd Gurley that we saw in LA this week. Now, the defensive matchup was tough with Seattle. That could be a reason, but it does give you a little bit of concern going forward. Obviously, he's going to be your RB2. And if you doubled up at running back in your draft, then obviously a flex consideration. But he is definitely not a high-end RB2 going forward. Obviously based off of 1 week, right? That's all we can talk about. But he did look very similar to the Todd Gurley that was last year, which wasn't that impressive. Who else we got?
One quick thing actually with Todd Gurley. Now I will say, if they're going to run an offense like they did today, where Matt Ryan's 450 yards, and like you said, you had the three receivers with the 100 yards receiving. That could, just because people are going to have to respect those wide receivers, that could open up some things for Gurley. So I'm not, Gurley didn't have the greatest game today, but I think he will be a solid running back. He won't be spectacular. Like you said, he's not going to be a RB1. He's not RB1 anymore. But,
right. And you look at the game script that they were facing, they were trailing from behind for most of this game. So it's pretty obvious why they de-emphasize the running game.
Right.
But that's just something to consider. All right. Who else we got at wide receiver, Ken?
We got Marquez. Next is Marquez Valdez Scantling, 17.6 points.
Hey, it's good to see another Green Bay Packer wide receiver step up finally.
Yeah.
I do not expect this to be a weekly occurrence, folks. This is just product of a poor defensive backfield in Minnesota until we say otherwise.
Yep. And we'll get to another Green Bay receiver in a second. Next is DK Metcalf in Seattle with 17.5 points. He
had a lot of drops today. I was kind of disappointed in him, but he did have that long touchdown catch, so he was on brand.
If I'm not mistaken, that was the big downside for him coming out in the draft, that he did drop a lot of passes.
This is a good point, Ken. So, nice.
Yeah.
Good memory there.
Well, hey, some things do come out. I get hit in the head, but there's still some things left.
Nice.
And then finally, Allen Lazard, another wide receiver from Green Bay, with 17.2 points.
Again, don't expect this going forward, but I bet you Aaron Rodgers was very happy that his wide receiver core actually looked competent this week. And even though Minnesota's defensive backfield is, atrocious, it is pretty impressive that three wide receivers for the Green Bay Packers got you double-digit fantasy points, two of which got you 15 or more points. Obviously, Devontae Adams got you the league leading so far 30-something points, which was ridiculous.
That's what you get when you targeted 17 times and catch 14 of them.
Yep, pretty much. All right, let's go to tight ends. You got Dallas Goedert, who I would not imagine to be the number one receiving tight end on Philadelphia, but he was. He leads the day with 24.1 fantasy points, followed by Mark Andrews, who looked like the tight end one, to be honest with you. I would not be surprised if Mark Andrews finishes the season as the tight end one. He was Lamar Jackson's go-to option all afternoon long. Again, no surprise there. A surprise, however, would be TJ Hawkinson coming in at 3 with 18.1. Look, we all knew last year after game one, ironically, that Hawkinson and Stafford had the potential to have some chemistry there. But I did not expect it this week against a good Bears defense. So kudos to Hawkinson. If he's on your waiver wire, maybe spend a little fab there to get him, or maybe wait till he goes on waivers and pick him up as a free agent. Last one I want to talk about is David Njoku. This was a fluke. David Njoku was a fluke. You have now, Ken, you have beef with another tight end for the Cleveland Browns.
So you spend a lot of money on Austin Hooper, who, let's be real, even when he was in Atlanta, he had only a couple games last year where he showed anything. And this year you bring him in and he does nothing again today. So based off of this and, my preconceived of what I think Austin Hooper is, even though I was stupid enough to draft him in one league, I see him as a guy who may only have 1 year with a big contract. And at the end of this year, Cleveland might realize what they really got and might want to cut their losses pretty quickly.
Yeah,
but I say that being annoyed after a week one.
No, I don't think I think you have a reason to be concerned. A lot of the talk we've had here at Fantasy and Frames has been that Austin Hooper was a system. He was a product of the system in Atlanta, heading over to Cleveland, where they just looked completely inept. I don't know whether or not they should have gotten rid of Freddie Kitchens, if that's what the offense is going to look like under Kevin Stefanski.
Oh, yeah, they should have gotten rid of Freddie Kitchens. Maybe just.
Well, what you saw today wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement.
True, but that could be an indictment of a lot of things. But
this is very true.
Freddie Kitchens was god awful, and he should have never been hired as a head coach. But that's another.
Well, story. we're not disagreeing with you there, but what we are saying is that with Austin Hooper being a product of the Atlanta system, he was going to be overvalued going to Cleveland. Oh, Baker Mayfield. Oh, Beckham. Oh, this receiving game. He has so many options to throw to, and that just turned out not to be the case. And I bet you a lot of people who invested in Austin Hooper, like yourself, Ken, are not too thrilled with that pick.
Now, thankfully, my investment in Austin Hooper was in like the 15th round in one league, and it was in like the 15th round because I went running back and wide receiver heavy in that league. And by the time I got around to tight ends, it may end up being me dropping Austin Hooper and picking up Hawkinson.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, don't invest in any Cleveland Brown tight end. You're not going to return value on your investment.
Yeah. By the way, I'm starting to think that Odell Beckham might be better off. Would have been better off staying with the Giants.
I don't think he had much of a choice there, Ken.
No, I know he was traded, but still, he might have been smart to not kind of force that deal away.
Probably. Who are some other tight ends we have to talk about?
So we have Logan Thomas with the Redskins. Shockingly,
who are the Redskins? There is no.
Oh no! Team. Okay, I did it again. The Washington Football Team.
Thank you.
All right, we'll get that fixed.
So David Gutierrez, member here at Fantasy and Frames, you can find him at Guru Fantasy World. He's been hyping up Logan Thomas all summer long, and so shout out to David for that little nugget throughout the season. Throughout the preseason. He definitely did pay dividends. It's going to be interesting to see what I almost said it.
Yeah, you almost got it too.
It's going to be interesting what Washington does going forward. Congratulations to them for picking up their victory against the Philadelphia Eagles. Who else we got, Ken?
We have no. You see, I wanted to bring this up earlier today, and I didn't, and I'm kind of upset that I didn't because now it just looks like that I'm going to jump on a bandwagon that's already started. But OJ Howard in Tampa. Got 13.6 points today. I have a sneaking suspicion that, while Gronk is there and Brady has the history with Gronk, OJ Howard is not a terrible wide receiver.
Well, he's not a wide receiver. He's a tight end.
I mean, a tight end. Sorry, tight end. I meant tight end. He's not a terrible tight end. And I think now where you have a quarterback like Tom Brady throwing to him, might get the best out of OJ Howard. Before he was, he had Jameis Winston throwing to him, and 50% of the time it was a great pass, and 50% of the time it was to the other team. So,
good points there. Are you planting your flag in the OJ Howard camp?
I might be. I might have a soft spot for OJ Howard. Definitely. Once again, I will definitely take OJ Howard right now over Austin Hooper.
Well, let me ask you a question. Would you invest any money in your fab in getting OJ Howard this week, or would you want to wait another week?
Yeah, I gotta see that. While I am bullish on OJ Howard, I might want to see a little more consistency, a little more week to week on that one.
All right. Any other tight ends, Ken?
All right, we're gonna have the old man Greg Olsen out of Las Vegas. See, I got that one. I didn't get the Washington team, but I got the Las Vegas Raiders, even though they were playing in Carolina. But
well, it's too bad that Greg Olsen's on the Seattle Seahawks, and it's Jason Witten who's in Las Vegas.
Oh my God!
You know what? This is a product of you not being a member of Fantasy and Frames all off season. You literally.
I have. Oh my God! This is terrible. I apologize.
No, it's okay. The hit to your
Greg
head in
Olsen,
hockey.
Yes, it was Greg Olsen, Seattle. Well, the Raiders are in Las Vegas, and Witten did have a couple catches. So
he did have a couple catches. Yeah. No, but Olsen, he looked
Greg
good.
Olsen, yes, out of Seattle.
Out of Seattle. Okay, so rounding out our little recap show, just going to go over the top 5 IDPs, individual defensive players. If you had Jerome Baker, linebacker, Miami Dolphins, in your lineup, good for you. If you had Jerome Baker in your lineup and you were facing me, I hate you with a passion. I say that jokingly, but part of me is a little bit serious because the guy racked up using Fantasy Pros IDP scoring 31.8 points.
Wow.
Yeah. Coming in at number 2, free safety, Marcus May of the New York Jets. Again, didn't see that happening.
No.
Ironically, tied Jerome Baker with 31.8 fantasy points. Marcus May and the Jets just looked atrocious outside of that one play with Jamison Crowder. But let me tell you, even though Josh Allen cracked the top 5 in fantasy point scoring for a quarterback today, this guy could not hit the broadside of a barn. Like, he had John Brown open by at least 10 yards in the end zone. Nobody was in 10 yards of the John Brown in the end zone, and he completely overthrew him. He was overthrowing him left and right. So I don't know. This is a product of the Bills' errant passes going every which way, which would make Marcus May more of a coverage success. But going forward, would I pick him up if I was shallow at defensive back? Maybe I'd pick him up. But again, it's one of those things where I'd rather wait one more week just to make sure what I'm seeing is what I'm seeing.
Well, looking at the Jets' offense, it suspiciously looks like the defense is going to be playing a lot.
So volume could be a play. That's very good. Yeah. That's a very good point, Ken. Volume could be a play. Janoris Jenkins had that pick 6 against Tom Brady for the New Orleans Saints. He got you 25.3 fantasy points. Jamal Adams, who we talked about earlier on the pregame show, and who Nate and I talked about in our fantasy playbook podcast over at fantasydata.com. Switching to Seattle, would he be required to go all over the field and make all the plays like he would do in New York, or would he just be in a stationary role? We found out the answer to that today, folks, and that is he is exactly as talented as he was in Seattle as he was in New York. He was all over the field. The guy had a sack, for crying out loud. A sack, double-digit tackles, passes, defense, you name it. This guy was doing everything all over the field. There's a reason why people were drafting Jamal Adams as the number 1 defensive back IDP.
He is one of the 3 best defensive backs in football, and I don't know if he was worth 2 first-round picks, but
in real football and in fantasy football.
Yes.
And, of course, rounding out the top 5 was Jair Alexander with 21.3 fantasy points. Look, the guy is a shutdown corner. I am surprised, however, at what he was able to let Adam Thielen do all over that field today in a passing game perspective. So that rounds out your IDP, and that rounds out your basic key performances here on Saturday. Folks, enjoy Sunday Night Football. We hope you had a great day watching the NFL, and I hope your fantasy teams are all winners. Stay tuned tomorrow for our 4-eyed recap article where we go more in depth in performances from the weekend. And then stay tuned for all of our waiver shows and start shows and you name it. And then we'll see you back here next Sunday.
And everybody in the 4-eyed championships, be ready to see where your teams are at and where you rank.
Ken, when can people see who are competing in the 4-eyed championships their rankings?
That will come out on Wednesday.
Okay. So all those in the 4A championships, check back Wednesday to see how are you doing in the tournament. All right. So for Ken, I'm Jorge. We'll catch you next time.
There you guys.